Luxury limousines. These are the ultimate way to travel. They should be stylish, packed full of the latest technology, offer first-class comfort, deliver strong performance, and sure-footed handling. Basically, they need to do it all.
But which do you choose between, starting with the oldest first, the Audi A8, the Mercedes S-Class, or the new BMW 7 Series, which we don't appear to have lined up properly. So come on, bring it forward a bit, let's get it in line. Come on, forward, forward. Stop, that's it. That's good. Wait a minute. There's no one in there driving it.
I'll show you how the car did that later in the video. Also, to help you decide which of these cars is best, I'll compare their design.
The BMW 7 Series is a bit like making Otto von Bismarck wear a tracksuit.
Test what they like to drive,
That was actually the most relaxing drag race I've ever done.
and see how practical they are.
All these cars, they feel first class. Ford Emirates.
But let's start with costs, because you're going to need some serious cash to buy one of these things. The Audi A8 starts from £63,520, the new BMW 7 Series £63,530, and the Mercedes S-Class £68,870.
However, these are all the long wheelbase models, so they cost a little bit more. For instance, this A8L 3-litre TDI Quattro with kit is £77,000. This S350D AMG Line Plus with options, 85 grand. But this BMW 740 LD X-Drive M Sport, it's £104,000 with options, which means combined here, I have 866 grand worth of cars. Take care with this kiss then, eh?
Thankfully, if you click on the pop-out banner in the top right-hand corner of the player window, you can go to carwow.co.uk to save an average of around £35,000 on these cars in total. But if you're just after a normal car, the average saving is £3,600. So then, which of these three luxury limousines actually looks the most expensive?
Well, yeah, it's not the A8, is it? But then some VIPs want a car that can slip under the radar, but do it in comfort.
It's a neat and tidy design, but from a distance it's actually hard to tell it apart from the much cheaper A6. The 7 Series does have more presence, but it just looks like a 3 Series with a peanut allergy that's accidentally eaten a Snickers bar. It's also very sensitive to colour and trim.
The BMW 7 Series in M Sport spec. It's a bit like making Otto von Bismarck wear a tracksuit. It's just wrong. The car looks much better with chrome rather than these black accents.
The S-Class, however, is without doubt the most elegant. It's a simple, effortless design, and while there is a distinctive family look, a C-Class looks like a mini S-Class rather than the other way round, and that's important.
There's also something a bit special about driving a car and looking down its bonnet to see this emblem. Makes you feel a little bit more important than other motorists.
The S-Class's interior is just as elegant. The sweeping dash is simple and delightful. There's very few buttons, and it just seems so special.
Thing is, it's not all perfect. See this leather on the top of the dash? That's actually fake. Acceptable in an E-Class, but not in an S-Class. And while the infotainment system does have these beautiful big bright screens, I do find it, well, not quite as easy to operate as it should be.
Still, it's better than the Audis, which while good back when the car was first launched in 2010, it's now feeling its age with the smallest screen here, the lowest resolution, and oldie-worldy dials for the driver. An optional night vision system is more modern, if a little pointless.
Also, well, I can't fault the quality, which actually feels a little bit more robust than the Mercedes. The design is just, well, it's a bit meh. I mean, this wood doesn't really help, but the worst bit is this collection of buttons and touchpad, which, well, they haven't aged very well.
The 7 Series interior is in a different league. While the design isn't quite as majestic as the Mercedes, the materials do feel just a little bit more expensive. It's a thoroughly nice car to sit in, and it leads the field when it comes to technology.
BMW's iDrive system is just so easy to use, and as well as the usual dial touchpad, you can also use the screen as a touchscreen, and there's even gesture control, so I can wave my finger around and do things like increase or decrease the volume, though that's a bit of a gimmick, it doesn't work too well. But I can't fault the resolution of this screen. It's just so high def, it's absolutely glorious, as is the one for the driver, and you can get some nice options as well, such as 360-degree virtual surround view cameras.
That's not all though. You can get the car with a bespoke tablet for rear passengers, so they can control various features and surf the net. There's also a personal trainer program available for the rear passenger screens. What's more, the car's key is like an Apple Watch, though it's a little bit more laggy. Still, you can use it to control several of the car's features remotely, including drive it, albeit slowly.
So let's say some jealous people in slightly less technologically advanced limousines have parked rather close to you that you can't get in your motor. Well, not a problem. You can start the engine remotely using the key. And then I can drive it forward or backwards out of the space, and it'll actually steer slightly to avoid obstacles so you don't dent your car. And then when there's room, you can stop it, get in it and drive off.
And that brings us on to performance. These cars all have a 3-litre diesel engine, and the one in the Mercedes has 258 horsepower, the Audi has 262 horsepower, and the BMW has 320 horsepower. Both the A8 and the 7 Series are 4-wheel drive, whereas the Mercedes is just rear-wheel drive. So then, let's have a drag race. But before we do, I know what you're thinking, we should have the less powerful 730D rather than the 740D for this test. But hey, one wasn't available, so get over it.
Okay, so I'm in the Audi. Now, it might be the oldest car here, but I'm still fairly confident in its ability to launch all right. So let's see what happens. 3, 2, 1. Oh, that's a good start. 2 4-wheel drive cars get the launch the best. And yeah, I think this race is pretty much decided now. Okay, just sit back and relax. Well, that was pretty conclusive, wasn't it? The BMW was first, then the Audi, and last was the Mercedes. Tell you what, that was actually the most relaxing drag race I've ever done. I don't think my heart rate went over 50 beats per minute.
So, these cars have pace and grace. But what about the space? Well, the normal length models of these limousines are practical enough, but these stretch versions are what you'll want if you need to carry rear passengers often.
So the Audi, it's super roomy, and I can really stretch out and relax in these upgraded seats. It's just that they do feel a little bit on the firm side, and so aren't quite as comfy as those in the BMW or the Mercedes. But really, that's just first world problems.
The Audi is also the worst for carrying 3 in the back at once. The centre seat is just uncomfy and too high, and there's not much shoulder room. Also, it's the hardest to fit a child seat in due to the hidden ISOFIX anchors. But the A8 has excellent cubby spaces, and it trumps the other 2 cars in terms of outright boot space. So, how does a 7 Series fare for practicality?
The upgraded seats you can get in the back of this BMW are lovely, though I'm not a fan of this pattern leather really. But I do have all the mod cons, so I can control the seat movement with the tablet, and yeah, I can really stretch out in this car. And I think on the whole, this is just a little bit more comfortable to do distance in than the Audi.
There is one problem with the BMW seats though. You have to undo a zip to access the ISOFIX anchor points when fitting a child seat. That's a bit of a faff. Also, while the car is generally spacious, it's only marginally better 3 up in the back than the Audi. Plus, while cubby spaces are good, the glove box is small. Still, the boot is an impressive size, though not quite as big as the Audi's, though the square shape means it's the only car here you can fit a bike in if you remove the wheels. The Mercedes boot is also impressive, though it has a smaller opening than the other cars here, so it's slightly harder when loading larger items. Also, this particular car has an optional fridge fitted, which eats into space. You can remove it if needs be, but it's there for a reason.
You don't have to worry about your bottle of champagne getting warm, or Evian. Still, at least the back of this car is the real deal. I mean, it's just so super comfy in these upgraded seats, and these big pillows, they're just sumptuous. And you know what, all these cars, they feel first class. It's just that this one is a cut above. It's more Emirates than Lufthansa.
The S-Class is also the best at carrying 3 people in the back at once. It has the most impressive cubby spaces, and it's the easiest to fit a child seat in too. So, all round, it works out as the most practical car of the 3. But these cars are also about what they feel like when they're moving. So, let's kick off with the newest car here, the BMW. After all, it's supposed to be the ultimate driving machine.
This 7 Series feels noticeably different to drive than all other BMW cars. It's definitely softer and less agile than the 7 Series before it. And you can understand why they're doing that. You know, they want it to be a luxury limousine and compete with the S-Class. You can sharpen things up by pressing some buttons down here to go to sports mode, but don't bother doing that, waste of time, because it's still a little bit of a barge in the corners. Although you can get it with this system which will read the road ahead using the sat-nav, and it will brace the suspension as you go round a corner to keep the car nice and flat. In terms of engines, yeah, they're all really good. The pick really for me though is a 730D. It's got enough power and performance and economy, and it's a good price. This is the 740D, which is, well, as you saw in the drag race, rapid, yet still fairly economical.
This car is supposed to be capable of 54.3 miles per gallon, and I averaged 40.8, which isn't too bad. But what's far more important is what the car feels like for rear passengers.
Now obviously all these cars are very comfy in the back seats, and it's quite difficult to separate them, so I'm going to use some science. I have an app on my phone which does vibrations and sound. So what I'm going to do is just cruise along and see what readings it gives me. So at 50 miles an hour here in the BMW, I'm getting 66 decibels, which is pretty quiet. Go into the vibration mode now, and it looks like it's averaging 5 on the vibration scale, whatever that is. On the whole, yeah, it's pretty comfy. I can tell through my bottom that I can feel some minor imperfections. The car fidgets a little bit, and you know, it floats, but occasionally you do feel a few bumps coming through the cabin. But on the whole, very comfy and pretty quiet.
So then, let's see how the Mercedes compares, starting with the view from the rear seats.
So here in the back of the S-Class, it does maybe just feel a little bit more comfortable. So it seems to deal better, this car, with small imperfections. It doesn't fidget as much as the BMW, and it's a very silky smooth ride. And yeah, that's backed up here by the technology. It's saying the mean vibrations is a rating of 4.7. Now let's just switch on to sound meter, and it seems pretty much identical in terms of noise levels to the BMW, and that's backed up by this. It's saying 67 decibels, 1 decibel in it. It's nothing really. So yeah, very, very comfy car this is to travel in. Quite fancy one actually. I could get used to this. It's better than driving myself. Might do all reviews from back here.
Actually, I need to tell you what the car feels like if you prefer to play chauffeur than the chauffee.
Do you know what? There's just something special about driving a Mercedes S-Class. It just delivers effortless progress. Now rivals may be slightly faster if you're talking about the entry-level diesel, but you know, put your foot down, this thing goes, and it goes in such a smooth way. Its gearbox is just, well, it just blends the gears together. I mean, this car, I mean, the best way to describe it is wafty. Oh yeah, it really is very nice to drive.
In terms of economy, the S-Class is supposed to do 50.4 miles per gallon, and I averaged 34.8, whereas this Audi A8 is meant to do 48.7, and I got 36.1. But what does this aging old dear feel like to drive?
I haven't actually driven the A8 for a long time, and I'm quite surprised at just how good it is. It's really stood the test of time, and it seems like the best handling out of the 3 cars. I mean, you can't believe that such a big barge can go around corners quite as quickly as this thing can. And it does help that as standing across the range you get all-wheel drive. It really is quite a grippy car, and the engines are lovely. I think this V6 diesel, it's so smooth, it's really punchy, and you know, it's all you need. You don't need one of the petrols, you don't need the bigger V8 diesel. This is a great combination, and the gearbox, that's slick as well. I think this is the car you want if you're a VIP that likes to drive yourself.
So, the Audi is surprisingly good fun for a big car, but what will your passengers think of it?
So here in the back of the Audi, it's still super comfortable. Now it does feel a little bit firmer than the other two, but it's still got a really soft ride. And it's very quiet as well. This one's got double glazing, so there's no wind noise at all. In fact, there's less than in the other 2 cars. What you do get is a bit more tyre roar though from the road. So the vibratometer says I've got mean vibrations of 5.2, so not quite as good as the BMW, which is not quite as good as the Mercedes. And I go to the sound meter and we're getting 68 decibels. So just a touch noisier than the others, but really there's nothing in it.
So then, where does all that leave us?
Well, the Audi A8. It is by far the oldest car here, but it doesn't feel it to drive. I mean, dynamically, it's really stood the test of time very well, and it is the sharpest car handling-wise out of the 3. But if you want the most technologically advanced car, it's this. It's the new BMW 7 Series. It really is a gadget geek's dream come true. And it runs the Mercedes very close on comfort. But the S-Class does just have the edge in terms of how relaxing it is to drive and to travel in. And really, that's what limousines are all about. And that's why, ultimately, the Mercedes S-Class wins this test. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it and subscribe to our channel. And if you click over there, you can watch the detailed individual reviews of the Audi A8, the Mercedes S-Class and the BMW